FNaF movie is coming out. Well, it is going to be coming out hopefully around the time this video comes out, because for me it's still the 17th of October. So I just thought, with the interest in FNaF probably peaking up again, so I might as well throw my own hat in the thing, forgot the synonym words, and I just throw my hat in and just make my own video, because I've enjoyed the first FNaF games since they came out, so I thought might as well just make a video where I look back on the first four FNaF games to see how they still stack up in my memory, and now as an adult playing them, because might as well do something with this interest I've had. And just as a disclaimer thing, I'm not going to be touching the theories. I have no idea what's going on in the theorist community anymore. I began to lose interest in the theories around sister location. So for me, I have no idea what's going on, so I'm not even going to pretend to talk about how these games now fit into the lore. Alright? Good. So when FNaF 1 came out, I was 9, and I'm 19 now, so no one's happy about this information. But I got introduced to it on YouTube at some point after the first game came out. I have no memory of the first exposure I had to it, but I just know that it was before FNaF 2. That's when I first got into it. At the school I went to at the time, not many people really cared about FNaF because the school was more focused on sports, as the students were more focused on sports than games and stuff like that. I was the weird kid there, so I didn't really have anyone to talk to about it, but at the end of that year I moved to a different school, which that one was more for the students that did care about games more, so I used that as a way to jump off to get some vague friends. Anyway, that's sort of just how I was introduced to it, just as a background thing. I'm gonna skip these for the next games because that's not really important, but let's talk about the game itself. So the story of the game, as plainly presented, is you see an ad in a newspaper and you decide to pick up a night shift job at your local pizzeria. You work your 7 nights there and you get fired after night 7. To help you understand what you're supposed to be doing, you get calls from the previous worker there called Fine Guy, because that person still doesn't have a name, I think, and basically fills you in of like the story and builds atmosphere of the place, tells you about like something that happened, the fight of 87. What was I thinking about oozing? That was the newspaper clippings. Anyway, you hear basically his ideas of what could be happening is like, if they see you go limp because they think you're an empty costume, that sort of stuff. So that's the sort of main story behind it. You do occasionally see some newspaper clippings change if you're paying attention during gameplay, but that more goes into the theory community, so again, I'm not really going to be focusing too much on that. The story that Fun Guy presents to you is basically the corporation doesn't really care about employees or helping people that much, as it says something about if you disappear then they'll scrub the carpets, clean up any evidence before they call the local authorities. Sorry, I've just had lunch, so I guess some of it's burping up a bit. So basically it already sets the stage of this place is run down, no one cares about you, just get your money and get out. So that's vaguely how the story is presenting itself plainly. The gameplay is basically just, I know everyone already knows the gameplay, I'm just doing this for my own sake, is you check the lights, check the doors, if there's something there, close the door, monitor the cameras to see where all the animatronics are and don't get killed. And the way that the game makes sure you don't just sit there with the doors closed the entire time is it gives you a limited power supply which slowly decays during the night. I was trying to think of a word but I can't remember it. The case during the night just has its own, probably because of your little desk fan, and your lights in the office, that sort of stuff. So that's the main physical thing that you control. The animatronics that come at you are Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy, and Golden Freddy, Christ. Bonnie and Chica act pretty much the same as they make their way to your doors, appear in your light area, close the door when they're there, they bugger off eventually. Freddy acts similar, except you stall him on the cameras by watching him, which helps slow his progress to you. He doesn't appear at your door window, so you gotta kind of just know where he is through audio cues. I never understood how that works, so I've always been a part of the boat of keep your camera on him so he doesn't get to that point, which I know is a vaguely newer content strategy. That's the word. Strategy. It's a newer strategy that people are using, but that's not really. That's how I managed to play through the games a bit. Foxy is your character that forces you to use the camera a bit more, as he sits down in Pirate's Cove and slowly edges his way out of his cone, then runs down the hallway and tries to kill you. Those four are the main ones that you're faced, which are your main threats you got to care about. Golden Freddy is an Easter egg sort of character. Occasionally on Cam 2B, a poster will change to one of his head. You lower the monitor, he's in your office, and if you don't pick up your monitor again in I think 4 seconds? No, that's... After a certain amount of time, he jump scares you and crashes the game, so don't get killed by him. Don't worry, it's not actually alcohol. I've just been reusing this bottle because it's enough water for me to actually drink throughout a day. I'm going to split the atmosphere up into two main areas, which are the title screen and the actual gameplay, because you know they both cover two different flavors of atmosphere, I feel. So we're just going to go about that. The title screen is Freddy staring at you with static over the screen with a distant droning noise. I've heard it described as like metallic, but I've always felt more of like it's vaguely a mixture between the, what's it called, like gears slowly churning with the humans guttural things. I've always sort of felt that is sort of how I describe the sound. And Freddy himself is occasionally glitching to a endoskeleton which looks at you from the side, so that kind of just, the staring at you and that sort of stuff kind of builds the tension of something isn't quite right, which obviously there isn't, but just that whole staring at you, distant noises slowly building up tension is always great to just getting ready to start the game. The office is small, cramped, filled with cobwebs, discarded rubbish, and just not a pleasant place to be, as this just makes you feel like claustrophobic, and again sort of reinforces that the company doesn't care about you and they've only given you the bare minimum to work with because, I don't know, might be saving money, they might not have money, they just might not care. So already just the first things you see helps reinforce things that you learn and feel about the office. And for the audio and sort of glitchy stuff is you hear it's like distant, there's like another drone sort of thing, so this one's more quieter than the title screen one. It's just an ambient sort of backing track, because one thing I've learned from doing film sort of stuff is never give your listener actual silence, because that tends to break immersion, because you hear something in the background. In the real world, you remember you're just watching something on the screen. I learned that from when I was making a school project where I wanted to sing a silence. Teacher said to put in something so it isn't so rambling. Anyway, you also hear circus music and Foxy's da-da-dum-dum thing, which links into the gameplay, because if you hear those, I'm fairly certain. I know it is for Foxy, but I don't quite remember for Freddy, but I'm pretty certain that means their AI is off. So you don't need to worry about them, which is a cool sort of thing that you will learn to use later on during playing the game. Also, randomly during the nights, flashes of characters' faces and "It's me" can appear with a glitchy voice in the background. That's lore stuff, but it kind of just keeps you on edge because just seeing things flashing in your face randomly just kind of puts you on edge a bit more. Anything else? Nice. The VHS aesthetic to the game is time-wise accurate, but it also helps build with the tension of you can't properly see everything in the background, so you kind of have to best guess what you think you see. This is used into a greater extent in FNaF 3, but this first instance is here mainly with Freddy in his cameras, where he's mainly illuminated just by the spots in his eyes. So you kind of need to learn to pick up the static and Freddy really quickly, otherwise you die. Anyway, the main game talk, let's just talk about the impact it's had on me, because why not? So the part no one cares about. So, as you can probably tell from just watching this, FNaF brought back my love for VHS because growing up, my family didn't really have DVDs, mainly as we still mainly watched everything on VHS with box TVs, which I've recently got a new one because I'm an idiot, but growing up with watching like Star Wars and Indiana Jones on VHS and then losing it for a couple of years and then seeing it again in FNaF has really brought back my love for that sort of stuff because nostalgia. And as you're watching, this is being filmed on a VHS camera that we've had home movies filmed on, so it's still there, and even in my films that I am trying to make. It's also something that got me into horror, as it was mainly a background thing in some of the stuff I watched, as assuming the Hobbit movie came out first, that's the first thing which gave me a taste of horror in something, because I watched the first Hobbit movie in cinemas, and the scene where the orc leader has, I think, the dwarf king's head ripped up. I don't know why, but that just scared me. And then seeing like similar things as like the eyes popping out in the game over screen and the themes of FNaF kind of just brought me into horror a lot, which is the main kind of films I like to make, mainly because I think they're the ones I find the most entertaining to make, because it's having to prey on something which doesn't affect me much anymore, but just trying to find ways to give people a reaction outside of like comedy and laugh tracks, that sort of stuff. I don't know why, it's just FNaF brought that out of me. Also, FNaF was the first online community I was a part of. I've never really been major parts of communities, I've just been the idiot that just watch stuff on YouTube and look at posts and stuff. But just being able to be a part of a community who was trying to solve a game and feeling like, and being able to like theorize myself and just see if anyone else had that sort of thoughts about the games is just something that's really been good for me, because it gave me something to do. And on my old iPad, which unfortunately is dead, I'd even had a notepad document where it's just all of my theories that I made. None of them were ever good, but the only one I remember making was the older brother in FNaF 4, as keep in mind this was being written when FNaF 4 came out, was he could have been Fungi. That is another one of those old FNaF theories, but once I will talk about it now, as my own theories I'll talk about from back in the day, because I don't know why, but when I looked at him, my brain always said he was like 15 or something. Don't know why, because the younger brother's like 8, whatever. How old are children? I don't know. So it's just basically just thought like, oh, he changed the date of the buy from 83 to 87 to help deal with grief, and the reason you can hear distorted Night 1, FNaF 1 phone calls is because he's found some documents from Fazbear Entertainment and that sort of stuff. Terrible theory. Horrendous stuff, but, just that feeling of longing of, I could think of something and then possibly show it to people and see what they think. That was just something that was really interesting to me. Anyway, enough rambling about FNaF 1. On to FNaF 2. Five Nights at Freddy's 2, where the FNaF series really started to grow to what it slowly became today, and my personal favourite in the franchise. Anyway, going to be following the same sort of structure from the FNaF 1 part, but with a slight change to focus on the teasers instead of how I was introduced. Alright. So FNaF 2 was the first game to really have teasers for the games, and they were sort of like hints to gameplay and that sort of stuff, and I found them interesting. They did have some incorrect features sort of in them from like older assets and that sort of stuff being used and broken mechanics, but I still found them interesting retrospectively looking back at them and also helping people figure out what's going to be happening. Also, it was the first real instance I ever saw of people editing things to get new information out of them, whereas the whole brighten up the image to get things with the puppet in the background and that sort of stuff I found just really cool. And I haven't seen a game company do that prior to FNaF, so Scott sort of pioneered that in a way for big games at least. So the story of FNaF 2 is fairly similar to FNaF 1. It's where basically you see your job in the newspaper, go get the job, work your 7 nights, get fired at the end with Phone Guy giving you random tips of what to do. Also, the stories that Phone Guy tells you do lead a bit more into the franchise's past, about a Fredbear's family diner and that sort of stuff, so it does give a bit of world building compared to 1, but well, more world building in a different direction, as 1 was more of a modern franchise, FNaF 2 gave you some more history of it and vaguely what's happening in the outside world a bit, which I found cool. Anyway, gameplay. So in the gameplay for FNaF 2, you flash the lights down the hallway and the vents, put on the mask and wind up the music box while vaguely checking the cameras. So it's changed a bit from FNaF 1, as there are no longer any doors, which is why you have the mask, and the building no longer runs out of power, but your flashlight does. Don't know why the camera flashlight works on the same flashlight battery you have, but I think that's just something we're not supposed to focus on. So the animatronics have also changed a bit to focus on this. The toy animatronics are all pretty much the same. They'll make their way into your office, put on the mask, and they'll bugger off. The wizards are similar, as Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica act that way, but Foxy needs to be flashed with a flashlight to get him away, otherwise he'll jump scare you. Mask doesn't work on him. Balloon Boy's a little prick that steals your batteries and was the first big hated character in the franchise, which I can understand with his mechanic. Mangle acts the same as the other mask animatronics, except you can hear the static coming from the vents, and when he's there you just, put it on and he buggers off. Puppet is you've got to wind up the music box to get rid of it, and if you let it wind down you just die after 20 seconds or something, I don't know. Yes, Golden Freddy. He just occasionally shows up in the hallway from night 6, I think? No, 5 or night 6, something like that. Just, I don't know what happens in the hallway, just don't look at him in the hallway. And when he's in your office, quickly put on the mask and you should be fine. Just put it on, take it off, and that seemed to work for me, I think. My memory of Golden Freddy is very fuzzy. So the atmosphere of FNaF 2 is opposite of claustrophobia. As I don't know what the word is for it, but it's the opposite of claustrophobia. As everything is too open, with like even in like the dining rooms and stuff like that, there's basically just no real clutter anymore. It's just here are the things laid out, organised, just table, posters on the wall, no real junk around anywhere, and your office is just a big openness of a void, which, funnily enough, had an impact on me when I was younger, as you might be wondering, why the hell am I filming out here? Whereas I wanted to do this filming at night, but I get tired, so this hallway, when those games came out, for some reason screwed with my brain because at night, through here is pitch black. So, my brain always pictured Foxy at the end of that hallway for some reason. And it just screwed me up for a couple of years, so that was fun every morning having to wake up and go brush my teeth and just walking out past my room and just seeing this abyss. Really screwed with me for a bit. Anyway. Also the droning effect of all the like ambient noises have pretty much been removed, with the only sound effect playing is the near enemies noise, which has been memed to death. And just flipping the thing accidentally, the title screen is the same in a way. It's just the animatronics staring at you, but instead of it switching to the endoskeleton, one of them switches to the withered version of it. Same VHS aesthetic and all that sort of stuff, so all that still stayed the same. So the impact this game's had on me is pretty much like what I said about before with this damn hallway. And it was the first real part where everything really took off of. That's where the most story theories came out, and all the sort of stuff just kind of like help people analyze stuff more, which kind of helped me, just think about crap more critically, and has led to me now constantly questioning everything I see. It's aggravating for everyone involved, so that's something the game's done. Anyway, onto FNaF 3. Five Nights at Freddy's 3, the first big peak of the franchise for its popularity, where all the Let's Players, theorizers, and animators really just latched onto the series and made a bunch of different stuff about them playing the games, and then ideas they had, like the Pymations stuff. So, peak of the original saga. Let's talk about the lead up to it first. So, following from FNaF 2, the teasers were a lot more lore focused, with the big ones that were stuck in my mind is the What Can We Use and the Balloon Boy 10. Those just big ones with the striking void with the characters just popping out of it. I find just really helped create theories of just like, what is this? Because all we got was basically just figures, nothing else. So again, I'm not really going into what people thought of the lore, but just that storytelling, basically focusing on what you have, nothing else to theorize on, just really help draw people in. I found the teasers to be cooler than FNaF 2's because I think 2 was still working on some non-complete models, as from like the Foxy Mangle Curtain. One that just pops to mind is just not everything's finalized, so some parts didn't translate well to the game, but all the assets were ready, and then you just made some teasers for them. So that's what I thought, like the teasers and the build up to it. Oh no, 6 was cancelled. Never mind. Anyway, game story. So FNaF 3 was the first one to really mash up the story a bit. So you switched from you taking a job at a local pizzeria to a local haunted house, which I'm assuming you've got some ties to the guy who's making it because he talks to you in a more friendly way than Phone Guy. I know this guy's dubbed Phone Dude, but I've always hated that name. I don't know why my brain hates the name. not against anyone who uses it, it's just dude is just such a weird name to fit in a FNaF series to me. I don't know why. Anyway, also the game was a bit shorter night-wise, as you work 6 nights instead of your 7 nights for the first 2. And instead of you being fired, the place burns to the ground. So, first one to really mix things up. There's a spider on my roof.
Hey, come pay rent?
Alright, so the gameplay in this one is the first big departure from the first 2, once again. So this one you've only got to care about really Springtrap, and you've got to keep the fucker away from you at all times. You do this with audio lures, which you get a finite number of, then you've got to reboot crap. Same thing for your camera and ventilation system, which brings in phantom animatronics, which basically jump scare you to make stuff stop working. But this one is more of a focus on the animatronics than just wait for them to come to you, because once Springtrap gets close to you, you're kinda dead. As I know in the front window, which I'm mimicking behind me here, you can lure them back, because I've done it once from my live stream, but I don't think you can do it from the side door. I don't know, I might be completely wrong. Anyway, as mentioned, all your stuff are on limits, all your equipment are on sort of limits of uses, so once they fail, you've got to go to a different panel and reboot them to, you know, get them working again, which gives Springtrap time to move, so you've got to find them again and that sort of stuff to keep the nights vaguely varied a bit. What else is there? Oh, so you have to seal vents. Back in watching older 2015 videos, they always seem to have a bigger play in gameplay, but from when I was playing it, I don't think it went into the vents that much for me. Don't know why, but, you know, at least I didn't have to deal with them that much. So the AI, how it actually works, I'm guessing is similar as for Springtrap, at least, of every X amount of time try to do a move thing. I don't know, I'm not familiar with its AI. I should have googled it, but can't be asked. The phantom animatronics, they're not hallucinations, I don't know anymore. Basically, Freddy walks in front of your window, bobs down if you're looking at him, and then jump scares you. And the rest of them are just on random cameras, where if you see them on the camera, click off of it, close the camera quickly, and they'll go away. If you look at them for like a second or something, then they'll, you know, cause a problem and jump scare you. Oh yeah, other gameplay. Christ, I'm forgetting so much stuff. There is a second ending to the game. I did do it on my live stream, but that's more lore stuff. I just wanted to get the full stars in one playthrough because I couldn't be asked to do things again. Anyway, the atmosphere. So the atmosphere, the title screen, is still similar to the first 2, where glitching animatronic on screen with VHS and droning music in the background, so I'm not really going to cover that again, so I'm going to mainly focus on the building. So the building's all like greeny, yellow, mouldy, wet building, which I'm guessing is because the owner bought one of the older buildings and didn't care to fix any of the roof stuff, so that's just how my brain figures, just a whole wet mold to it. And also because it's probably been abandoned for 30 years, but just that whole dampness fits with the Springtrap animatronic of it, just old decaying thing coming towards you, which puts in a more different kind of tension, I find, as FNaF 1 was claustrophobia. FNaF 2 was whatever the inverse of claustrophobia is. So this is just more of the trapped in a box with a rat. Not rat. What is this? What's the old words? Trapped in a box with something trying to kill you. So basically we've all been going through like a different fear factor for you, and this one is basically the whole, it is coming towards you, but you can try to delay it coming to you with your audio cues and that sort of stuff, which is a good horror concept. I'm sure if this was me playing the games for the first time, I would have been shitting bricks, but, you know, kind of know what I'm doing for these ones a bit. What else is there? Oh yeah, they changed the close enemy noise from 2, as 2 was the one that everyone's memed to death, which is always great. I love how people can't enjoy things anymore. It always has to be some fucking meme. But it was changed to a quieter noise that plays less often, so when you hear it you realise, oh, I need to fix the problem I'm in, which I think does the job better. Okay. Yeah, and the building's old technology inside of it, you see, I'm guessing it's like the lights and stuff like that. The old arcade machines will kind of help build the old things forced to like move again, sort of feeling that FNaF 3 goes for. So all that's done well. So the impact that it had on me was the first big aha moment I had for a game, because the first 2 were sort of just laying breadcrumbs. Christ, I cannot. So FNaF 3 was the first real big aha moment that I've had for a game, as the first 2 games was laying down breadcrumbs for people to figure out what's happening, but then 3 gave you a big, here's some information, which was cool and great at the time. I remember when the game came out, one of my friends said to me like, hey, did you know that the rabbit character's the purple guy? And I said, what? And then he like showed me the actual mini game and realised like, oh cool, we're getting concrete information, which was cool, so we could actually build from things even more, which is really cool. Also, it was sort of a end to me, sort of in a way, as 3 I think was originally marketed as the end, but once I do 4 I'm going to talk about how I think that does a better end, but it did sort of feel like we had a full trilogy done, as we had low information, some ideas, sort of explanations, as we all knew some things wouldn't be answered, but it was still cool just being able to feel like there was an accomplished end. Anyway, I think that's all I wanted to say about 3. FNaF 4. Five Nights at Freddy's 4, the final chapter. So this is the last game of the video, as well as the final game of the original FNaF original saga. And for this I'm only going to be focusing on the release version. I'm not going to be touching the Halloween edition because that doesn't really add much, but just going to be focusing on the original. Also, I was originally going to be dressed up vaguely like the crying child for this, because in the other videos I was in purple clothes, but yeah, it's like 30 odd degrees, and with a hot light on me with this alone, I'm not getting into a jumper, right? So we're going to have to put up with my button up. FNaF 4. So aesthetics wise, FNaF 4 had my favourite teasers out of the entire saga, as I just found framing, the colours and shadows of all the nightmare animatronics to just be really cool and really made them seem threatening. Also, Nightmare Chica was the first real teaser that I saw before. A videos around 4 was the first time I realised, oh, I can actually go on the website myself on my iPad because stupid child, and just waking up one morning like 5 odd, and then just going on scottgames.com and just seeing that Nightmare Chica teaser just scared me a bit. But you know, just that was just a cool experience I got for me, because then I got to go on YouTube and then see people brightening up images and all that cool stuff. So the story of FNaF 4 is you're some crying kid who's going to his own birthday party in 5 days or something, with his older brother bullying him the whole time, and during the night or something like that, you're attacked by animatronics that you got to fend off. Yeah, it's a story. So the gameplay is sort of a mirror of FNaF 1. As you go back to the checking lights closed door of FNaF 1, but instead of your checking Pirate's Cove, you check your closet for Foxy, and behind you on your bed you've got your Freddy and Freddles and show up. I was pointing too far. So it's sort of just like a mirror of FNaF 1 as maintain Foxy, keep an eye on Freddy, Bonnie and Chica, your main forces coming towards you. As from that, Bonnie and Chica act basically the same. Go to the door, listen to see if they're there. If they are, close it. Foxy slowly makes his way into your closet, which you can prevent by catching him in the hallway. Then you just keep the door closed when he's in there to revert him back to his plushie, which I've got. Yet none of these are the good Sanchi ones. I just somehow managed to get half decent looking Funko ones. What else? It's also, as I said before, Freddy builds up with his little Freddle minions, and once enough of them are on your bed, he just jump scares and kills you. Now the final two animatronics are Nightmare Fredbear and just Nightmare, which is a Golden Freddy and other Golden Freddy-esque character. They act the same as the other ones, as they've just got a combination of their AIs. They'll appear on your bed or your closet, come from your doorway, that sort of crap, so you already sort of know how you deal with them. I found that FNaF 4, the gameplay, is the one that I liked the least. I don't know what it is about it. I've had to sit down and think, but I feel the reason that I don't like it the most is it's very feeling like you're on a rhythm that you've made, that you're spinning plates, sort of. As all the other games you were spinning plates, but it did have that randomness factor to it. They kind of felt like things could go wrong out of your control that you had to try to manage to fix, but FNaF 4 sort of felt like everything was on its own time, as though you had to go spin this, spin that, spin this, go back to the first thing, that sort of thing to me. I think that's why I wasn't a big fan of it. It's just not my kind of game, I guess. The atmosphere of FNaF 4 is you're in an isolated, dark bedroom with distant noises in the background, which, from what I found, is the best horror that's impacted me from the FNaF playing that I did. As the first time I tried FNaF 4 on stream, I had to chicken out because my hands were shaking a bit and I felt my heart aggressively beating too fast, which was the first game to actually cause me fear in, well, a decade-ish. Which I think that's mainly because growing up, which is same house, but it's basically just hearing the pop of corrugated iron on the roof and just distant noises in a country-esque area kind of just scares you a bit. Because one sort of funny story is I was home alone one night, my family were off somewhere else, and I heard gunshots in the middle of the night. Now, usually the courtesy that whenever we've had someone with a gun come over to deal with country problems is we'd at least try to let people know, which, hey, around this time you're going to hear some rifle fire, make sure you've got pets inside, and, you know, don't be alarmed, it's an actual professional doing something. We did not get that memo, so just younger me just slowly drifting off to sleep and then just hearing rifle shots in the middle of the night scared the crap out of me. And I think they're just distant noises, and the dark bedroom just reminded my brain of that for FNaF 4. So I think it has one of the best atmospheres out of the games altogether. But on a bit of a flip side of that, I don't like the in-game models of the Nightmare animatronics that much. As I think Fredbear looks pretty good, but also Nightmare Freddy, but I don't know why, but it's mainly in Foxy's jump scare and that sort of stuff that I found is they look like they're made out of clay. As the other games as they all look like actual in-universe things, but I don't know what it is about 4, they just don't fit the look of the game to me, as they always just look like well it's rendered and then they've been put in with a slightly different art style, which is a bit off to me. I don't know what it is about it, and I haven't heard anyone else talk about this, so I think I might just be crazy about this, but to me, they just look wrong as like character design wise, that's fine. It's just how the fur is made is just off to me. So the impact FNaF 4 had was the first time it was like once we had all our big theories out of the way, it felt like we were solved something, like it was done. We had answers to pretty much every question, and we felt like everything was just concluded and most people were agreeing on what was happening, and it just felt refreshing to be completed with something. And I think the next year this came out, which funny story, I'd had this shipped from America because I got it before its real Australia release, so this is the American book, which I found cool. But I felt the book was just going to be like a sort of like extra information, like if there was anything else which couldn't be talked about in the game, just background information or slight answers to something, like initial history of the franchise, because at the time we really didn't know much about Fredbear's, but you know, that sort of what the book did. Not talking about the other two, but just felt like everything was sort of done, which is why I felt like I was starting to drift away from the theories around at this point, because this location then adding in new stuff kind of just felt like it made everything incomplete again. So that's just how I felt. Just FNaF 4 was very completing of a game. So that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching this far if you've got this far. One thing I learned is, yeah, purple doesn't show up well on this camera, so for FNaF 1 and 3, so far at least, as I haven't filmed 2 yet, but yeah, that doesn't show up well. I tried to have like a purple shirt, purple vest, purple bow tie, but yeah, that didn't show up, so for 2 I'm probably going to be wearing a white shirt in a vain attempt to fix that shit, but if you want a continuation of this as sister location to Ultimate Custom Night, let me know, because that's the second sort of era for FNaF for me. Of the past UCN, I'm going to need a new computer to do any of that, but if you want that video, let me know and I'll have to get this location. Yeah, I think that's it. If you enjoyed, you know, the usual YouTube shenaniganery, tally-I. Also, the next video is going to be a random live stream highlight, so if you want to see them live, you know, go check them out.